The breach in Sector 9. The red lights flashed inside the hallway of Sector 9. Alarms screamed through the metal walls of the ship like wild animals. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to see. Ethan Reed ran, coughing and gripping the emergency tool in his gloved hands. His boots slammed against the floor, slipping as the ship shook again. Something had hit them. Maybe a meteor. Maybe a pirate missile. No one had time to check. He reached the broken airlock. Wind howled through the half-sealed doors. The pressure was dropping fast. A crack along the side hissed as oxygen leaked out. Ethan didn't waste time. He slid to the floor, opened his toolkit, and started working. "Come on. Come on," he whispered to himself. His suit's system buzzed in his ear. Biofilter. 1% remaining. Ethan paused. "Great," he muttered. The biofilter was his only protection against toxic gas from the nearby planet's atmosphere. Without it, his lungs would burn out in minutes. But if he didn't seal this door now, the entire ship would lose oxygen. Others on board had already evacuated. Ethan had stayed behind to make sure no one else was stuck. Then, suddenly, his comlink crackled. At first, he thought it was static. But then, help. A voice, soft, strange. Not human. Ethan froze. He turned his head toward the airlock window. Beyond the smoke, beyond the cracked glass, he saw a figure. Lying on the outer deck, a body barely moving. Small sparks flew from a damaged suit. The helmet was broken, and the skin underneath wasn't human. It was glowing pale blue. An alien. He didn't recognize the species. Her face was half covered in blood and dust. But her lips moved again. "Please." Ethan looked back at his tool. The breach wasn't fully sealed. But he had seconds, maybe less. "No time to think," he whispered. He typed fast into the airlock control panel. "Override safety," he said aloud. The screen flashed red. "I know what I'm doing." The doors groaned, and the outer gate opened slightly. A wave of wind pushed against him. He grabbed a line, clipped it to his belt, and stepped out. The pressure was brutal. His ears rang. His body trembled. His lungs screamed inside the helmet. The alien's eyes were barely open. Her hand twitched as if she tried to crawl. Ethan rushed forward. Picked her up. Her body was heavy armor-plated. Her breathing was shallow. She was almost gone. With all his strength, he dragged her back into the airlock. He hit the seal button. The doors closed behind him. The lights turned yellow. Then green. He collapsed beside her, gasping. His vision blurred. The inside of his helmet filled with red text. Biofilter failed. Warning, toxic air breach. He ripped the helmet off. He knew it was over, but he turned his head slightly. The alien girl lay beside him, still breathing. Her glowing skin was bruised and burned. She was alive. That was enough. The emergency medbay drone rolled in, scanning both bodies. It beeped. Then another drone followed. Metal arms moved quickly. Masks were placed. Injectors hissed. Ethan faded out. The last thing he saw was her face turning toward him. With fear, but with a look of surprise, and something else, like she had never been saved before. Asterisk. Zirika opened her eyes slowly. The lights above her were soft white and unfamiliar. A steady hum filled the room, and the air smelled clean but strange. Her muscles ached, and her side burned where the suit had melted into her skin. For a moment, she didn't move. Then memory returned like a sudden wave. The explosion. The pirate ambush. The fall. The black void of space. And then a human face. She sat up fast. Pain shot through her chest. She growled. "Easy," said a quiet voice. Zira turned sharply. Her claws came out from instinct. She was still weak, but ready to fight. The human sat across the room on a small bed. He looked like death-pale skin, sweat across his brow. Tubes ran from his chest into a medical pod. His breathing was shallow. But his eyes were awake, watching her. "You're okay," he said. "The med drone fixed most of your wounds." Zira blinked. "Why?" she asked, her voice raspy. "Because you were dying," Ethan answered. "And you were alone." Zira didn't speak for a moment. Her kind didn't ask for help. Warriors died with honor, not in the hands of strangers, especially not humans. Her people once called them destroyers. She had fought against their machines, but this one, this fragile human, had dragged her from the jaws of death. She looked down at her body. Her armor was broken. Her right shoulder still sparked with tech damage. One of her ribs was clearly replaced with a silver brace. The med drone had done well, but the human had done more. "You should not have helped me," she said flatly. Ethan gave a weak smile. Too late now. Zira stood and stepped closer to him. Her height made him look even smaller. Her glowing scars pulsed along her arms and neck marks of her warrior clan. Her golden eyes stared into his. "You risked your breath for a stranger." "Yeah," he replied, leaning back. "Guess I'm stupid like that." She tilted her head. "What did you lose?" He pointed at the med device. "My biofilter was at 1%. I inhaled some of the outer atmosphere pulling you in. My lungs are not doing great." Zira clenched her jaw. "Then why save me?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked at her, really looked. "Because you were alive," he said finally, "and no one should die like that. Not even an enemy." Zira turned her eyes away. That answer had struck something inside her chest. Something uncomfortable. Where she came from, mercy was weakness. But right now, her body still worked because of this man's choice. And she didn't know what to do with that truth. She sat on the edge of the bed beside him, careful not to crush the cables. "I am Zirika, daughter of the House of Ember Blood, first claw of the sky ranks." Ethan smiled faintly. "I'm Ethan, just a maintenance tech from Earth 3. Zira looked at his hands. They were shaking. His skin looked burned in some places. He had touched her suit even when it was sparking. He had pulled her inside when he could barely breathe. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered. "Your people do not save ours." "I'm not my people," he said. Silence filled the room. The ship was still broken, still floating near the dead zone of Sector 9. But in this small med bay, something had shifted. Zira leaned over and picked up a broken part of her armor from the floor. She looked at it for a long time. Then she placed it gently on the table beside Ethan. "What's that?" he asked. "A warrior's promise," she said. "Now I owe you a life. I did not forget a debt." Ethan tried to laugh, but coughed instead. "Well, if you want to repay me, maybe help me fix the ship before it falls apart." Zira rose. Her body was still sore, but her strength was returning fast. "Then stay alive long enough to give me tools," she said. Walking to the control panel, Ethan watched her. She was more than just a fighter. There was something about her calm but powerful, cold yet honest, and as she tapped the screen to scan the damage across the ship, he noticed something odd. She looked over her shoulder once. Just once, and she smiled. Just a little dot, as if for the first time she didn't feel so alone. Asterisk. The ship floated in silence above a dead moon. A soft glow from its damaged engines lit up the black space around it. Inside, wires sparked, walls hummed low, and systems kept flashing red. Zyraka stood in front of the control panel, arms crossed. She stared at the main screen. Her golden eyes narrowed as she read the blinking alert. Unidentified signal detected. Incoming vessels. 3. She didn't like this. The signal was coded in old pirate language. Rough, dirty. It meant danger. She turned to Ethan. He was sitting beside an open panel on the floor, fixing a coolant line. His face looked tired. His breathing was shallow. The med drone kept checking on him, but he waved it away every time. "You need to rest," Zira said firmly. "I'll rest when this ship stops leaking coolant," he answered without looking up. Unless you like floating in space with no air. Zira walked over and crouched beside him. There are ships coming, not friendly ones. That made Ethan pause. Pirates? Yes, I know that code. They hunt the weak. They'll try to board us. He looked up at her, blinking. Can you fight? Zira didn't answer. She didn't need to. The look in her eyes said enough, but then her voice softened. You should leave in the escape pod. Ethan laughed once. That pod's gone. I launched it full of data logs and damaged AI cores. I thought I was the last one on board. You risked everything for strangers, she said. And I'd do it again, he replied. Zira felt something twist inside her chest again. That human heart so soft, yet so stubborn. She wasn't used to this. Her people didn't do kindness. They survived. They fought. They didn't care, but Ethan did. She stood and pulled a sharp blade from her damaged armor. It still hummed with alien energy. If they come, she said, we fight. Together. Ethan gave a weak grin. You're all right, Zirika. Before she could reply, a loud alarm echoed through the hallway. The screen turned bright red. Hull breach in lower deck. Boarding attempt detected. Zira's voice turned into a growl. There. Here. Ethan pushed himself up with effort. I'll seal the control room. You hold the hallway. Zira nodded and ran to the exit. She didn't wait. Her armor clicked into place, and her blade glowed like fire in her hand. As she stood by the door, she heard heavy footsteps coming down the corridor. Claws, boots, growls in a language she knew too well. Reaper stat her old enemies, the ones who had hunted her people, the ones who left her to die. Her jaw tightened. Let them come, she whispered. The door burst open. Zira moved like lightning. Her blade slashed through the first attacker, a giant with metal arms. Blood splashed against the wall. She spun, ducked, and stabbed again. 3 more came. She kicked one in the chest and drove her knife into another's neck. The hallway was chaos, screams, weapons, sparks. But Zira didn't stop. She fought like the warrior she was born to be. Back in the control room, Ethan locked down the door, then turned to the weapons console. His fingers moved slowly, but he forced them to work. Come on. Just one working turret, he muttered. The screen blinked. Manual control enabled turret number 4 ready, outside the ship. One small cannon came to life. Ethan smiled. Gotcha. He aimed it at the pirate ship still docking and fired. The blast hit its engine. Flames erupted. The ship spun and drifted. Inside, Zira was pushed back by another Reaper with thick armor. She fell hard, bleeding. Her blade clattered. Away. The Reaper lifted a massive hammer, roaring. Before it could strike, bang. A plasma shot hit it in the chest. Ethan stood in the hallway behind it, legs shaking, holding a blaster with both hands. Leave her alone, he said, breathing hard. The Reaper turned, but it was too slow. Zira grabbed her blade and sliced through the monster from behind. The body fell. Silence returned. Ethan dropped the blaster and leaned against the wall. Zira walked to him and caught his arm. You should be in medbay. You needed backup. You are a fool, he smiled. Yeah, but I'm your fool now. Zira looked at him, really looked. This weak human had saved her twice. Fought beside her. Almost died for her. She had no words. So instead, she reached out and touched his chest gently. And for the first time in her life, she whispered the warrior's bond. Your breath has touched mine. Your blood has joined my fight. I will not leave your side. Ethan blinked. What does that mean? Zira smiled slightly. It means, I stay. Asterisk. The hum of the ship grew louder. A low vibration ran through the floor. Zirika stopped mid-step. She turned toward the main engine readout, her eyes narrowing. The screen flickered, then turned red. Core temperature rising. Reactor stability. 41%. Coolant leak manual override required. Ethan read it too. No, 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 no. He limped toward the control panel, leaning on the wall for support. His legs felt heavy and every breath burned. But this was worse than pirates. We've got a leak near the reactor core, he said. If we don't fix it, the whole ship goes up. How long? Zira asked, stepping beside him. Maybe 15 minutes. Less if pressure builds fast. Zira turned to the schematic on screen. Where is it? Maintenance tube B, just under the reactor shaft. But he stopped, then looked at her seriously. It's deadly in there. The radiation will fry your system in seconds. I can hold my breath, she replied calmly. Ethan shook his head. That's not the point. You'll cook from the inside out. Zira didn't blink. Then I'll go fast. No. Ethan touched her arm. You're still recovering. And I've been in that shaft more times than I can count. I know where to patch it. You're barely standing, she said. You'll die, he smiled weakly. We'll all die if nobody goes. Might as well be the guy who already gave. Up his lungs, Zira grabbed his hand. This is not your fight alone. Ethan looked up at her. For a moment, he saw something in her golden eyes, something soft behind the sharp edge of a killer. Fear, not for herself, but for him. I already saved you once, he said. Let me do it again. He didn't wait for permission. He pulled on his emergency suit, which was half burned from before. It whined in protest as he zipped it. Zira stood frozen, fists clenched. I'll guide you from the panel, she said at last. But if you fail, I won't, he said. He stepped into the shaft. The door hissed shut behind him. Instant heat slammed into his chest. Even through the suit, it felt like walking into fire. Lights above him flickered. The metal walls glowed red. He crawled forward, sweat already soaking his back. Zira's voice came through the comlink. Turn left. The leak is above the second valve. Got it, Ethan gasped. He moved slowly, dragging his body toward the burst pipe. Steam blasted out from the crack, and radioactive coolant pooled below. His vision swam, his hands trembled. The patch kit slid from his grip. He reached again. This time, he caught it. He placed the seal plate on the pipe and activated the plasma torch. Outside, Zira watched the core temperature tick downward, only a little. Still rising. Faster, Ethan, she whispered. Please. Inside the shaft, Ethan's fingers stopped working. He blinked. His helmet readout blinked red. Suit integrity, critical. Heart rate irregular. He looked at the torch. It was ready. He jammed it forward, sealing the leak. The pipe hissed once, then went silent. Zira's screen lit green. Coolant restored. Core stabilizing. She gasped. He did it. But her joy lasted only a second. The comlink crackled, then nothing. Ethan? She called. No answer. Ethan! She didn't wait. Zira ran to the shaft door and ripped it open with her bare hands. The heat hit her like a wall, but she didn't stop. She dropped into the passage, crawling fast, her knees scraping metal. Then she saw him, lying still. Face turned toward the pipe, one hand on the seal, the other twitching weakly. Zira reached him. Don't die, human, she whispered. He opened one eye barely. You're glowing, he muttered. Dazed, Zira almost laughed, but it caught in her throat. You fool, she said, lifting him gently. You stupid, brave fool. She dragged him out, step by step, her body aching with every move. Sparks flew around her. Her vision blurred. But she held him close and didn't stop. Minutes later, the medbay door slid open. The med drone beeped wildly and rushed forward. Zira placed Ethan on the table. Fix him, she ordered. The drone began its work. She stood there, covered in sweat and blood, watching with a tight jaw and a pounding heart. This wasn't just duty anymore. This wasn't about debt. Ethan had risked everything again, not for himself, not for glory, but to protect her. And Zirika, daughter of Ember Blood, warrior of the skies, was not going to let that sacrifice be in vain. Not ever. The stars outside the ship had shifted. Zirika stood at the window, staring at them, quiet and still. Inside the medbay behind her, machines beeped slowly. Ethan lay inside a healing pod, his chest rising and falling under the glow of warm lights. His body was weak, but alive. Zira hadn't moved from the spot in hours. She should have been training, repairing the outer shields or scouting the radar. But she stayed. The human had risked his life again, crawled into a burning shaft, sealed a leak with his own hands, and nearly died doing it. All to protect a stranger. Her Zira's fists clenched. She didn't know this kind of loyalty. Not from her people, not from her soldiers, not even from her bloodline. To her kind, sacrifice was a show of strength. To Ethan, it was an act of kindness. She didn't understand it, and yet she couldn't stop thinking about it. Suddenly, the radar alarm blared. Zira spun. Warning, multiple signatures detected. Approaching fast, hostile ID confirmed. She rushed to the control panel. The screen filled with red markers. 3 ships. No. 4 now. And she knew them. The Reapers. They were back. Cowards, she growled. The same pirates who ambushed her. The same monsters who left her to die in orbit. And now they had returned, likely tracking her signal. Or maybe they saw Ethan's small ship as easy prey. Zira moved quickly. She locked down the outer decks, activated all defense systems, and pulled on her repaired chest armor. She turned back to Ethan once. His eyes were closed. The med pod kept him in deep sleep. You rest, she whispered. I will fight. The ship rattled as enemy cannons fired from a distance. Zira moved through the hallways like a ghost, silent and fast. She reached the weapons bay and loaded plasma spears, ion charges, and her own custom glaive. Each weapon glowed faintly in her hands, ready for blood. She opened the outside ramp and stood in the hangar, waiting. A docking clamp hit the outer shell. Then came the hiss of a breach. The Reapers arrived. The first through the hole was a tall creature in heavy armor with chains wrapped around his shoulders. He roared. Zira didn't wait. She threw her spear straight into his throat. He collapsed. With a wet grunt, the others charged in behind him, 4, then 5, all armed. But Zira was faster. She rolled forward, slashing low, then jumped into the air and brought her glaive down hard. Scream echoed through the hangar. Another pirate fell. Zira's feet danced across the floor as she fought like a storm. She wasn't just surviving. She was sending a message. This ship was protected, and she would spill blood for it. But one of the Reapers got behind her and fired a shock pulse. It hit her back, and she dropped to one knee. The pain was sharp, too sharp. The pirate raised his blaster to finish her bang. He dropped with a hole in his chest. Zira looked up. Ethan stood in the hallway, barefoot, bare-chested, his face pale, his body trembling. But his hands held a blaster, and his eyes burned with fire. I said, he growled, coughing, leave her alone. Zira's heart jumped. She didn't expect him to be awake. She didn't want him here. But she couldn't stop the strange warmth inside her chest. Ethan limped forward. I thought I told you to rest, Zira said, rising slowly. Rest is boring. Another pirate ran in from the side. Zira stepped in front of Ethan and cut him down in one move. Ethan looked up at her. I told you I'd stay, she said. Together, they stood in the wreckage of the hangar, 2 broken warriors, side by side, outside. The enemy ships began retreating. Zira activated the final turret. A blast of red light struck the closest Reaper vessel, tearing off its wing. The others turned and ran, cowards, just like before. But this time she didn't fall. This time she had backup. And for the first time, Zirika, proud warrior of Ember Blood, realized something new. She wasn't fighting for honor. She was fighting for him. Asterisk, the floor was stained with black blood. Pieces of broken weapons and burned armor were scattered across the hangar. Smoke still rose from the walls, and the air smelled like fire and metal. But the ship was quiet now. The Reapers were gone. Zirika stood with her shoulders high, breathing slow and deep. Her blade was covered in blood. Her armor was cracked again. But her hands didn't shake. She felt stronger than she had in years. Ethan, on the other hand, was a mess. He leaned against the wall, holding his side. Blood soaked through the bandage across his ribs. His legs barely held him up, but his eyes still burned with the same fire from the fight. "You're crazy," Zira said, walking toward him. "You should be in bed." He gave her a crook smile. "You're welcome." Zyra shook her head. "You're the only human I've seen who charges into battle half dead. You needed help. I didn't ask. You didn't have to." They stared at each other for a moment, the silence thick between them. Outside the cracked hangar doors, the stars blinked. Inside, the only sound was the soft hum of the engine slowly powering back up. Zira reached out and touched Ethan's shoulder. Her fingers were gentle, now not the claws of a killer, but the hand of someone who cared. "You've saved me 3 times, she said. "You're counting?" he asked, chuckling. "I'm a warrior. I remember every debt." Ethan winced as he straightened. "Then what now? Do I get a medal?" Zira turned serious. She stepped back, stood tall, and then slowly dropped to one knee. Ethan blinked. "What are you doing?" "This is a blood oath," she said. "Among my kind, it is the highest vow. It means my life belongs to you. I will fight for you, protect you, and never leave your side until my breath ends." Ethan looked uncomfortable. "Zira, you don't have to do this." "I want to." He shook his head. "I don't want you to owe me anything. This isn't about debt," she said, rising. "This is about choice." She looked into his eyes. "You saved me without knowing me, twice. You stood with me when others would have run. And I see now you are not weak. You are not foolish. You are something more." Ethan's throat tightened. He'd never seen anyone look at him like that before, like he mattered. "You're serious about this oath?" he asked quietly. "Yes, and once it is made, it cannot be broken." Ethan gave a small nod. "All right. Then I guess we're stuck with each other." Zyra smirked. "Stuck is one word for it." Suddenly, the ship's lights dimmed. A warning flashed across the nearby screen. "Fuel cells low. Primary drive shut down in 3 hours." Ethan groaned. One problem after another. Zira helped him walk to the command deck. Together, they leaned over the console. He tapped a few keys, and a map of nearby space lit up. "There's a supply station not far from here," he said. "Abandoned. But it might have fuel cells." "Pirates will go there too," Zira warned. "I'd rather deal with pirates than die floating in space." Zira placed a hand on his. "Then we go. But this time I lead." Ethan didn't argue. 3 hours later, they landed on the station's outer platform. The place was dark, cold, and covered in ice crystals. Ethan coughed as he stepped out of the ship, wrapped tightly in a thick suit. Zira walked beside him, holding her weapon with calm readiness. The silence was eerie. But inside the station, they found what they needed: 2 working fuel cells, still locked in storage. "This place is lucky," Ethan said. "Or cursed." Zira replied, eyes scanning the shadows. Suddenly, they heard something: movement. Footsteps. Not Reapers this time, but another alien scavenger crew, armed and hungry. Zira stepped in front of Ethan without thinking. They only had seconds. Ethan whispered, "We don't have to fight." Zira looked back. "I made an oath, and I keep my word." She stood tall, raised her blade, and let out a deep warrior's cry. It echoed through the station. And the scavengers stopped in their tracks. They recognized the sound. The cry of a first claw, A legend from the Ember bloodline. They turned and fled without a fight. Ethan blinked. You didn't even swing your sword. Zira grinned. Sometimes reputation is sharper than steel. They loaded the fuel cells and walked back to the ship. Side by side. And for the first time, Ethan realized something. Zira didn't see him as a weak human anymore. She saw him as her partner, and maybe, just maybe, her equal. The ship floated quietly above a golden planet. For the first time in many days, the lights were green. The engines hummed gently, the fuel cells were full, the weapons were repaired. The ship was safe. Inside, Ethan sat in the command chair, holding a warm cup of nutrient broth. He was thinner now, pale and slower in his steps, but he was alive and healing. Across from him, Zira knelt on the floor with her eyes closed. She was sharpening her blade slowly, carefully, as if each stroke mattered. They hadn't spoken much since they returned from the abandoned station. Words felt too small for everything they'd been through. Ethan looked at her quietly. She had changed too. Her armor was cleaner now. Her face no longer showed only pride and steel, but something else. A quiet strength. A warmth she once tried to hide. He cleared his throat. So, what now? Zira opened her eyes. What do you mean? I mean, do we go our separate ways? You back to your people, me to mine? Zira paused. She placed her blade down, then stood. I have no people left. Ethan blinked. What? She walked to the window and stared out at the stars. My clan marked me for dead. My escape was seen as weakness. If I return, they will not welcome me. I am no longer Zira of Ember blood. Ethan stood slowly and walked to her side. Then, where will you go? She turned to him. Her voice was softer than he had ever heard it. That depends on whether you still want me here. Ethan smiled. I thought you were stuck with me. She tilted her head. Even the oath can be released, if you ask it. He stepped closer. I'm not asking. Zira let out a slow breath, something that almost sounded like relief. Her fingers brushed his arm, gently. I still don't understand you, she said. I don't understand you either, he replied. Yet, I would die for you. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, old necklace, his mother's. Something he kept hidden all this time. He held it out to her. It's not a warrior's gift, he said. But in my culture, we give this to someone we trust with our life. Zira took it in her hands carefully. It was simple silver with a faded crystal in the middle. She stared at it, then at him. Then, let me give you something in return. She pulled a small glowing stone from her belt. It pulsed faintly with blue light. This is a heartstone, she said. Every warrior of my kind has one. It's bonded to us at birth. It holds part of our energy, our true breath. She placed it in his palm. If you accept this, our bond will be sealed. Life to life, breath to breath. No matter where you go, a part of me will be with you, and I will feel you, even across the stars. Ethan looked at the stone. It pulsed once, then gently synced with his heartbeat. He looked up. I accept. Zira smiled a real smile, soft and bright. Then suddenly, the ship lights flickered. Incoming message. Galactic Alliance. Ethan pressed the console button. A voice spoke from the speaker. This is Commander Avian of the Galactic Alliance fleet. We've received distress signals from your ship over Sector 9. Identify yourselves. Ethan looked at Zira. She nodded. He spoke. This is Ethan Reed, civilian engineer. We're alive. And we have information on Reaper activity. The voice replied. Copy that. Coordinates locked. Rescue ship inbound. Zira stepped back and gave him a questioning look. You're choosing to go back to them? Ethan hesitated. I want to report the Reapers. They're getting stronger. The Alliance needs to know. Zira looked unsure. They may not accept. May, then they'll have to learn, he said. Because I'm not going without you. Zyra's chest rose slowly. Her fingers wrapped tighter around the necklace he had given her. Then I go with you, she said. Together, they stood side by side as the stars shifted once more. And as the rescue ship approached, Ethan and Zyra didn't look afraid. They were no longer alone. They had crossed worlds, fought through fire, shared pain, and survived together, bound not by blood, but by choice. By breath. By heart. And now by each other. The end.